Hello and welcome to another episode of History Bluffs, where truth is stranger than fiction. I want to welcome to the show your host for this episode. It's Gina.
Welcome to History Bluffs. Hello, everybody. I'm Gina Bobina. And you are you. And we have a wonderful episode tonight. Thank you, Tech Adam, for introducing us like that. Hey, Tech Adam.
Hey, I'm going behind the curtain now.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's maybe the last we'll see of Tech Adam, but he's going to do all of our sound effects and keep the whole show moving. So we could not do it without him. Also, tonight we have some really, I think this is a really wonderful topic for the way that the world has been going for these last couple of years. And I think our topic tonight is the word heal. And I think we could all use a little bit of that. And so my hope is that by telling you stories tonight that we will help with some of that healing process and maybe some laughs, because laughter is the best medicine. So I'm going to introduce our historians for the night, and then I will tell you the rules, and then play along from home as much or as little as you want to, but we'd love it if you commented in the side along. We'll be able to see your comments a few seconds after they happen, so we don't reply right away. Still write to us, and we'll get to you soon. And but first, let's welcome from all the way from Chicago, but he's been on a U.S. tour. It's Carlos Rivera. Carlos, hello.
Hello, everybody. U.S. tour. By U.S., we, of course, mean Florida, the best state.
Yeah, but you flew over a bunch of other states to get there.
I did. I flew over the garbage states to get to the best state. How do you like them apples, the world? Florida man clapping back.
Yeah, we love them apples. We don't grow many in Florida because they're more of a cold weather fruit. But so, Carlos, any stories or fun things you want to share from this week, or should we just get right into it?
No, sure. I will stall for time. No problem. I rented a convertible top Fiat for the last leg of my trip because I'd never driven a Fiat. Mm-hmm. And I've never driven a convertible top. And I imagined I would be out in the sun with the top down my whole time in Miami, which was the last leg of my trip. It rained half the time, so that was a no-go. It was blasting heat, sun, too shiny the other part of the time, so I had to blast the AC just to keep it at less, higher than room temp. Really, I could only do it at night when I was driving slow, but I did it while I was driving through South Beach, so totally worth it.
Okay, so that part, totally worth it. So basically you can drive a convertible at night here in Florida is what you're saying. Okay, but that would be totally worth it. How fun, how cool. And so let's go to somebody fun and somebody cool. Chris Berry coming all the way from downtown Orlando, the coolest state in the world. Great, the coolest state. What's up, Chris? How about you? Did you have an interesting week this week since last we saw?
No, actually I had a very neutral week, but you know what? I love it because I've had a lot going on. I have a lot coming up. So this has been, I was actually supposed to be out of town this week and my trip was canceled. So I'm actually catching up on a lot of things. It is really nice to kind of have a pseudo empty calendar that I haven't filled in too much with my own stuff.
Well, I say that if you fill in a pseudo empty calendar, you fill it in with pseudo things. So like it's fake stuff for you to do, but it'll be fun. Right. Make it fun. I would say.
Yes.
Cool. And then so I have also in the wings, I have Mr. Darren Humphrey. He's going to come join us here. And I have questions for Darren. And I want to know about your week too. Hi, Darren.
Hi.
But I also want to know about your bookshelf. So start with your week. How did that go? Tell us anything fun.
It was great. I learned a lot researching tonight's story. And, it's been a very healing kind of thing for me.
Are you being sarcastic or are you serious?
No, you'll see when I read tonight's story just how uplifting and amazing it is.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that. And so you discovered like kind of this week you actually had something come out of your research. I love that so much.
Yeah.
Me, on the other hand, I had one of those things where I have I do have a landline, and I have that forwarded to my cell. And while I was away, a call from inside my house forwarded to my cell, but from my house, like if that makes sense. It was like as if somebody picked it up and called it. I don't know what that was. I'm going to pretend like it never happened just in case something really fishy is going on.
Sounds like Black Ops kind of stuff.
Yeah. Or even that's like late 1980 horror flick kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's like a Carol Kane movie.
I'm in the building.
Yeah, That's what it felt
The
like.
call's coming from inside.
The people who live with me were with me, so it was like, what is happening? So that was my weird interesting. But that's
Were they on the phone while it was ringing?
No, nobody was
okay.
there. That was the weird part. And then
Maybe your phone just missed you.
came home with a butcher knife that night, like from my brother to like check the house out just to make sure. Why we went into the house, I don't know. Like you would think, I don't know. Anyway, neither here nor there. It was a horror movie. But let's just get started. Let's get started into the show. Enough about us. We're going to talk about the topic heal tonight, and that could be any spelling. So so you can use homonyms for that as well. So the topics, I don't know what the stories will be about, nor do I know who is bluffing. So tonight there will be 3 contestants. They're all going to be telling stories. I'll give you that information in a minute, but basically they are either completely telling you the truth or they're lying to you. So Adam, the tech, is going to give us some rules here, and I'm going to tell the audience how it works, and then we're just going to get started and have some fun.
Let's put the rules up.
The rules up. The rules here basically the topic tonight their story has to be related or inspired by the word heal. They have to be completely factual. If the bluff wants to put in a few facts, they can, but by and large, their premise is completely false or made up. Your job tonight is to try to figure out which one of who are the 2 people telling the truth and who's telling the bluff. And if you vote that, then we will use your topic for next week. So then we don't mind if you look up on Google as you're at home, but please don't share it in the comments in case you find out that for sure one of us is a liar if you know ahead of time. So those are the only rules, and so that's it, and we'll just get right into the game. So let's start. I would like to start, Darren. Since you said that it was such a healing week, I would really love to hear your story first. So your topic is heal. This is going to be the beginning of round 1. And Adam can tell us that round 1 is fun because
it's the beginning of round 1.
You will have you have the longest amount of time to tell your story, and your story inspired by heal begins right now.
Okay, so the title of my story this week is If Looks Could Cure. So if you hate going to the doctor and getting a tongue depressor stuck in your mouth, or getting a shot, or getting your knee hit with that little hammer, then I've got some good news for you. There's a new doctor in town, and you don't even need insurance. Now, by town, I mean Zagreb, Croatia, and by doctor, I'm speaking of Josip Grabvac, who goes by the one-word name Bracco. And I mean, let's face it, if you go by just one name, you're totally legit, like Banksy or Liberace or Charo. So now, Bracco, of course, didn't give himself that name. It was given to him by his mentor, Ivica, who was not unsuspiciously at all, quote, swept away by a rogue wave when the 2 of them were alone on a beach, and after Ivica had taken off all of his jewelry and his socks and his wallet. But it was after this tragic event that Bracco began to realize that he had the power to cure people, not with laying on hands or speaking in tongues or snakes, but Bracco can cure you just by looking at you.
Bracco! I'm loving Bracco so far.
I know, it's amazing.
Bracco, I have this thing that happens once a month that I need. No, just kidding. Hey,
he will look at that for you.
He would look at that for me. He wouldn't be the first. Hey, Chris, what were your thoughts about Darren's story and about Bracco?
Well, I like that.
Is that good?
I like that he used Croatia because, I'm going to wager that not many of us know a whole lot about Croatian history, and you could throw a lot of, just throw some random consonants and vowel combinations together, and it sounds like Croatian words as far as we know. And then Bracco sounds a lot like Barack O, the guy that we used to have at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. So right now I'm waiting to hear more information from Darren to get me off the suspicious fence.
Oh, so right now we have Chris on the suspicious fence. Carlos, what about you? What fence are you on?
I'm on the other side of the suspicious fence in the suspicious yard next door because what Darren describes is what you might find in your supermarket aisle on the way out. One of those those Harlequin novels. That's what he's pitching. That's what I'm hearing. He even has a lead named Bracco, no last name. Sounds like Fabio, who also would happen to be on the covers of these Harlequin romance novels. I rest my case.
Yeah, you rest your case in the suspicious yard. Well, I actually think that, well, just so that you know, for those of you out there, to say hello in Croatian is the word bok, like a chicken, and also to say goodbye. So we're going to say bok to Darren, and we're going to move now on to Chris, who will be our next historian. It's time for your round one, Chris. We'll get you to the center square, and then as soon as the bomb hits, you go.
Okay. So my story is titled Love to Hate, because I'm using heel as in Heel. Heel in professional wrestling is what they call the villain. It's the one the crowd loves to hate. So I'm going to tell you about Fred von Hofen, the Flying Baron. He was the first villain in professional wrestling. There are archaeological clues that wrestling has been around for thousands of years, but professional wrestling, as we now know it, was born in the late 1800s in Europe. The man who would become the Flying Baron, Frederick von Hofen, was born in Estonia to a family of circus performers. Even though he had been around the circus his entire life, he was determined to become an army officer because, in his mind, that was considered a much more noble role. So after lying about his age as a teenager, he got into the army. He soon became disenchanted with the army way of life, and it turned out to be not too good of a soldier. So he would release his frustrations with the one thing he turned out to be good at, fighting in a ring. So he was large for his age, and his commanding officers realized that he was very good at defending himself against older, stronger guys. So they just set up matches for him, wrestling and boxing, and this is how he got his start in the ring, and I'll have more to come in the next round.
Ooh, all right. So we're going to hear more about the Flying Baron in just a little bit. Right now, I'm going to actually fly over to Darren and ask Darren Darren, tell us about your opinion about the Flying Baron, Darren.
Chris. Right after you chastise me about Croatia, you whip out Estonia. And then you very clearly take the Red Baron from the flying circus of World War I and put F in front of his name and make him Fred Baron. I mean, come on.
Fred von Hofen.
Wasn't the Red Baron Snoopy?
That was his arch nemesis.
And he was
that's right. The World War II flying.
Common mistake. Okay. That's a common mistake.
It's a common mistake. So the Red Baron's a bad guy. The Red Baron's a heel, I guess. So
it would seem.
All right. Well, that's your opinion there. So you're holding judgment, I suppose, although I think you're basically saying it was BS. And Carlos, what do you think about that?
I feel like it's one of Chris's standard Kaiser Soze scenarios. He heard the name Darren, and he immediately thought Baron, and he just made up a little story. I thought we were going to hear a wrestling story, not about a pilot. And then we're going to hear about wrestlers. All right. So I'm sus on both of them. Maybe a little more sus on Darren right now, but they're both kind of sus.
Okay, so would it be accurate to say you're on the suspicious fence with Chris?
As I said, I'm in this suspicious yard. I've already gone over the fence. I'm in the yard. I'm trespassing in the suspicious yard of my neighbor.
I'm on the other side of the suspicious iron curtain, okay? I'm that far away.
You're that far away. All right, well, you know what we have not heard is Carlos's story. So we need to see whether you all are on the fence, in the yard, in the hole, whatever, for Carlos. Tell your story whenever the boom happens. You can start.
All right. Heal made me think of, Dr. Heal Thyself, made me think of medicine. And I want to talk today about the possible controversies surrounding the first modern use of anesthesia in surgery. So we're going to go all the way back to the 1840s, okay? And we're meeting up with a guy named William T.G. Morton, okay? But let's go back a little further. That guy becomes a dentist, but before that, he was born, baby boy, in Charlton, Massachusetts. Not Charleston, Charlton, okay? He was the son of a miner, not a child, a miner. All right, and he was born in almost 1820, not quite. He worked different odd jobs, as they did back in the day. They weren't just one profession. They did a bunch of weird stuff before they landed in something. He was a clerk, a printer, a salesman before he entered the Baltimore College of Dental Surgery because he landed on dentist, okay? And after graduating, he formed a partnership with Horace Wells in Hartford, Connecticut, and that may come back to haunt him. More to come.
Ooh. Well, I can tell you, Carlos. Your time is up, but I will say that at least I understood and know where the places are that you spoke of in your story. So
Yeah, America. They're in America.
Yeah. So they were not foreign to me. But I also noticed that a guy that was in sales went into dentistry. That would be like me going into dentistry. How many people want me, Gina Bobina, like doing shit in their mouth? Darren, what do you think about Carlos's story?
Well, I am struck by the idea of a man from Charleston going all the way up into Yankee territory to get his schooling done back in 1820 and 1840s. And I don't think I believe that. I don't think a true Southern gentleman would deign to go to Baltimore in Maryland.
I don't know if I agree with that or not, but I mean, plus 5 points for that accent. That is
Well,
dialect is excellent. Thank you. Chris, what do you think about Carlos's story?
Well, I know that back in the day, they used to use salt in prepping wounds and healing wounds. And who makes the most famous salt? Morton's. And when you are healed, you feel well, you feel better. So Morton, Wells, I think there's, as Carlos would say, there's a lot of sus in his story.
Oh, there's a lot of sus, but is there sustenance? That's what we need to find out. Oh, so we're going to actually have to, that is basically everybody's first round of the story, which actually is a very nice segue into what I like to call round two. So now, for this particular round, we're going to get to hear the second part of everybody's 3-part story, but they're going to have a little bit of time shaved off the clock just to make it interesting. So now I'm going to kind of like keep them in sort of the order they were, except this time I'm going to start with Chris's story. So Chris, you get to tell your story about the Flying Baron. Go ahead and regale us with your tale as soon as this starts, as soon as the boom happens.
All right. So Fred von Hofen, not Fred Barron, Fred von Hofen, when he left the army, he ironically made his living by boxing and wrestling for money in traveling exhibitions, very much a circus lifestyle. And in the early 1900s, professional wrestling was rapidly gaining popularity. Crowds numbering in the hundreds and thousands became the norm. The most popular professional wrestler in Europe was a guy named George Hackenschmidt. He was recognized as the first world heavyweight wrestling champion. He was regularly beating all of his opponents, many of them over and over again. So the wrestling promoters put out a kind of a wide net to attract new wrestlers to challenge Hackenschmidt, and they offered larger and larger purses, even if the newcomers lost. So Fred von Hofen realized he could make a lot more money if he gave this a try, so he signed up. And he did so with many, many other people. There was now a legitimate backlog of new wrestlers trying to get at the champion. And at one match in Brussels, von Hofen had he blew his lid, and I'll tell you about that, and that's how he gets the name, the Flying Baron.
Oh, okay, that was very fun. I will say you intrigued me. If I could fight Hackenschmidt for a purse, as long as it's a large one, I would. I would go to town on that. So, hey, Carlos, what do you think about Chris?
Van Houten, if I'm not mistaken, that's also the last name of Milhouse from The Simpsons. And unfortunately for Chris, everything isn't coming up Milhouse. Because once again, I think Chris may have The Simpsons on. We all know that it's on FXX 24/7, 365. It's basically its own station. I think it may be in the background or in the foreground, if you will, of Chris's setup there, and he may just be looking at Milhouse, and that's where he's pulling these names.
No pretzel rods here today.
I give that was a deep dive too there. I wasn't thinking along those lines. I give you 5 points as well. So that means that right now Chris is in the rear with no points, but he could still make that up. This is just our
rear with no points.
No points. He's in the rear with no points. Darren, what do you think about Carlos's story there?
I mean
Chris's story. Sorry.
I'm with Carlos in that I think Chris is just pulling names out of the past. It's been a while since I saw it, but I'm pretty sure Hackenschmidt was the brewery that Laverne and Shirley worked for.
He does
Hackenschmidt Incorporated. I'm pretty sure I remember that from the theme song.
Hackenschmidt Incorporated, is that what you're saying?
That sounds right.
It does sound right.
Shamil Shamazel Hackenschmidt Incorporated. All right. So now we're going to just switch gears for just a second. We're going to actually go to you, Darren.
Nope.
I'd like to hear the second part of your story, the guy who can look at you and heal you. This is fascinating to me.
Okay.
Oh, well, you should start.
Boom, there it is.
Yeah, there it is. There it is.
Okay, so now for legal reasons, like the supplements you buy from the dispensary, Bracco doesn't actually specifically claim to heal or diagnose any condition or person just by looking at them. He just strongly implies it. Wink, wink. And so the way it works is you go to one of Bracco's public events, and after a little more wink, wink, Bracco comes out and just stands there and looks around the room for like 10 minutes, and then he leaves. And then afterwards, during a period they call meditation and reflection, the believers claim to experience life changes, healings, and positive experiences. And during gaze time, while he's looking at them, they feel tingling and they see energy and a golden aura, or they experience peace of mind and relief from pain. And this happens without Bracco even touching anybody or saying anything. And in fact, Bracco has not said anything to anyone. Like, he has not spoken to the press in over 20 years.
What? I can't go 20 seconds without talking, much less 20 whole freaking years. Carlos, you seem to have all kinds of thoughts in your little bubble over there.
Yeah, my thoughts, where's Tech with the buzzer when he goes over by 5 minutes? Great.
I was riveted. I wanted to.
Right? Maybe
Carlos,
it's less on your little cameos. I'm watching the clock.
Maybe if you knew the piece of Bracco, you would be more relaxed.
Also, Darren, I'm sure Darren said Bracco first, and then he changed it to Bracco. So.
No, Bracco is a prisoner of war camp in Nazi Germany.
Yeah. Which is why it's odd that you said it
and
first.
I love it. Adam the tech, I give you all the credit in the world, because if I were in your spot, I'd have taken Carlos off and put myself in and give it.
Do I get 5 points too?
Yes, you get 10.
Why are you giving him points for not doing
Right,
his
he's in
job?
the lead.
Because his cameo was adorable.
Yeah.
All right, so now Carlos has spoken. He didn't say if he's in the house, the yard, or the fence, but Chris, what are your thoughts on that one? What do you think about Darren's stuff?
It's pretty simple for me. He basically just describes a creepy ogler. The guy just stands there and stares, and people, and he said, did he say like 20 minutes? It's like, come on, nobody's going to sit there for 20 minutes with some guy just staring at them and not saying anything. I mean, he sounds like a stalker apprentice, this guy. So I'm not buying it.
I agree. I think it's like a stalker apprentice, because if you were a real stalker, you'd have to do it longer than 10 minutes. So that scans actually. So, all right. Well, that's an interesting end to the story. I will have to say I'm riveted for the next round, because basically Bracco hasn't done a thing, and I'm fascinated. So, which means that we're going to move to the next part of this round, and that's going to be Carlos finishing up his story about the the anesthesia story.
If I may,
America.
May I use the 5 seconds that Darren overtook to correct Darren on something he said about my thing?
Carlos, you absolutely can, but in a real life, it was 7. So there you go.
Okay, so real quick, 7 seconds. I clearly said Charlton, Massachusetts. And I made a point of saying not to be confused with Charleston. And Darren thought I said Charleston and said in the South, I said Charlton, which is Massachusetts in the North. That's all I wanted to say to that.
That's what you're using your 7 seconds to do?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was where our 7 seconds was going. Okay, so Adam, when you have a second, will you please start the timer, and then Carlos will finish with the second part of his story.
Yeah, Adam, would you mind doing your job?
You got it. Here it comes.
Well,
Great.
that's
So,
beautiful.
1843, William Morton marries Elizabeth Whitman. She comes from a prestigious family, but the parents are like, "What? You're a dentist? That's a garbage job." Because remember, dentists used to also be like barbers and stuff. They would do like catch all everything. So to please them, like that was like almost a circus job to touch someone else's story. So to please his in-laws, he's like, okay, I'll go into Harvard Medical School because apparently that kind of thing was like super easy back in the day. I don't people just went to Yale or Harvard or whatever. So he went, and there he attended the lectures of Charles T. Jackson, where he learned about the anesthetic properties of ether. It's a simple and easily available gas. It intrigued him because, pulling teeth from people, they're screaming, Doc, Doc, you're killing me, you're killing me. He's like, I know, guy, I know, but this is the only way to do it. There's no magical way to make you not feel the pain. But there is. And what's called ether, and Morton started using it. No, you don't have to go over.
I did, though. I did. You earned it.
You earned it. You earned it. That is really fascinating. And also, I just want to let the world know that if something happens where somebody in Carlos's world goes missing or dying, that he looked up the word ether on his Google search for this show. Okay, so Darren, what do you think about this story about the Harvard Medical School dentist?
I find that a little hard to believe that a mere dentist and barber could just like, I'm going to Harvard.
No, but I don't think his name. I don't think his name was Amir. I think it was Morton.
Oh, if he was an Amir, I could see that because they're very wealthy.
Okay. Oh, you weren't saying the name. I'm with you now. Okay. Chris, what are your thoughts as well? Interested.
Well, I have to call out Carlos in this instance, and I'm not saying he's done this in the past, but sometimes when people are making things up on the fly, they are thinking and they elongate things in their head. They elongate things verbally to give themselves more time to think of stuff. And he used the words prestigious and police. He put on an extra. He put on an extra syllable to each of those words. I think because his things were rolling in his head. And as Darren pointed out, you don't just show up at Harvard or Yale and just audit classes. That's not something that they do regularly. Not even back then. I'm sorry. I'm just not buying it.
Well, I mean, I did see that Joe Pesci movie, and you could sneak in pretty easily. So
with honors.
But at any rate, that means, well, actually, we have heard from all of our contestants, or our panelists, I should say. And so that means that this is the end of round 2, which is actually going to lead us into the best part of the show, which is going to be round 3. The reason this part of the show is fun is because we actually get to hear the end of everybody's stories, and you at home get to decide who you believe, who you don't believe, and we'll take votes and we'll kind of talk about it a little bit. You let us know. So we're going to actually start. We're going to open this round with Carlos. Carlos, finish telling us your story about the anesthesia stuff.
Okay. All right. So Morton starts testing it on himself and on animals.
Oh.
And when he successfully does that, he does an operation with a guy for a tooth extraction, okay? He does an arrangement with a Boston surgeon, Henry Jacob Bigelow, to have a public demonstration of the potential of ether. 1846 at Mass General, a doctor, John Warren, removed a tumor from the neck of the patient, Edward Abbott. Using the suggestion by Morton. Morton was a dentist, so he couldn't do the surgery, but they removed the tumor based on Morton's suggestion. So Morton then tried to patent ether, but everyone's like, dude, that's ether. We know what it is. You can't patent it. Also, the guy who told him about it was like, hey, I thought of that first. That should be my patent. And his former partner was also like, hey, I thought of it 2 years before you. That should be my patent.
Wow. So the guy who invented ether may or may not have gotten credit. Yes, he did. He could. Ultimately, dentists started just using ether without ignoring the patent of both him and his former partner Wells. They were just like, we know it's ether. We're just going to use it. Yeah, they probably call it something else now. He was like, I got to tell you the right way to use it. And they're like, guy, you're a dentist. We'll figure it out. We don't need you. So they removed a guy's tumor. All right. Yeah, so Darren, you're drinking. So I'm going to go to Chris. Chris, what are your thoughts?
Well, he referenced, what did he say? Deuce Bigelow, I think was the guy. And then he said, hey, Abbott did the other surgery. So he's just pulling out names from comedians and characters of comedians that we know.
Great comedian.
And I think his story makes me numb.
Oh, because that's what ether does. Get it? You get it? You get it? Darren, how about you? Do you believe Carlos? Do you not? But what are your thoughts on that last round? Did it sway
I mean,
you?
I'm thinking back to all the times I've been to the dentist and been administered ether, and that part of the story makes no sense because they give you a shot in the face.
Oh, I thought there was more.
I don't even
Okay, that was
know how
very-
to respond to that.
Just a shot in the face.
They do. They give you a local anesthesia,
Yes, it is true.
which
Also-
oddly enough is mentioned in next week's story that I researched.
No, okay. All right. So right now I'm not really sure. I mean, I know it exists. I'm just not sure if it exists in the way that Carlos explained it.
Well, I've heard of the ether bunny, but that's totally different.
Yeah, I have too, actually. Yep. If you eat a lot of ether, that's exactly how
No
you.
tech.
That was total rim shot. That deserved it.
Oh,
Was a
boy.
rim shot or a rip
That
shot?
was a rim shot.
I know it was a good one.
Ether bunny, really? All right.
That was not a tomato, though. Hey,
no.
Carlos.
Gina?
Not Carlos. Chris and Darren, have you both talked about Carlos so far? Yeah, because
Yes,
you both
Yes,
said
we have. But I would just like to say, I would like to give 2 of the points that I don't have to Darren for that ether bunny.
You'll have the points.
That's awesome. So you're at -2 and he has 7. So,
right.
but right now, Adam the Tech is winning with 10. Okay.
Yay.
How did he
So,
get 5 more
deserved.
points?
What's that?
How did Adam the Tech get 5 more points?
Oh, because I gave him 10 because you were being a jerk to him. So,
For having him do his job? Great.
yes. But I mean, I do also like the idea of paying him with compliments and or, any of our sick burns, I guess. So,
I'm cheap.
we'll just play with that fact a little bit. Darren, no, I lied. I apologize. I'm going back to Chris. Chris, I'd like to hear your your third part of your story. So we can
Okay.
figure out if it's true. Bring it home.
Sure, I will. And so at this match in Brussels, it was 1903, and Van Hoffen was hoping to be one of the earlier fights on the card that night because across town he had another match set up and he wanted the money. And the promoter changed everything around, and he ended up being in the last match of the night, so he couldn't do both. He was incensed, so he ran out of the locker room and he started yelling that he was upset to anyone. He was just not yelling at anybody in particular. And the 2 guys that were wrestling and the referee, they all didn't know what was going on. And the crowd didn't know what was going on. And one of the guys in the ring just kind of like, waved them off with his arm. And that he just got incensed. And the crowd started booing him. He rushed up, jumped up on the top ropes, and he jumped and he tackled both of the wrestlers. And they all 3 started fighting. And the crowd went berserk. They loved it. And they started putting this guy in each show going forward. He ended up getting a shot against the champion, but he lost. But the guy liked him so much because he jumped off the rope and started bringing him around. And I'm taking the 5 seconds that those 2 had that I didn't have.
Yeah, I will have to agree. You earned that last 5 seconds. So Carlos, what are your thoughts on that one? Because I don't remember the Flying Baron, but I do remember that guy that used to do the flying, that thing that you spun people around on the head and throw them down. That was a good one.
It's tough.
He's a nice
It's
guy.
a toughie. It's a toughie because that nonsense had to start somewhere. So maybe the Flying Baron was part of the vaudeville of wrestling. Who knows? I don't know. This is a toughie. I'm starting to go back to the sus gate. I may climb back into my own yard.
All right. So that last round did a little something there for Carlos, gave him the feels. Okay, Darren, what are your thoughts?
Well, the time frame is a little too early for me. It's clearly 20 or 30 years before the invention of the metal folding chair, which
Clearly
required in any time you climb over the ropes and start a brawl. So,
Yeah.
if you'd used a wooden folding chair, it would have just shattered. There'd be wood everywhere.
fair. Agreed.
It would not work until at least the 50s.
Yeah, until the 50s, or unless you were the Purple Haze, in which case you didn't use chair. You almost just looked at people and they would pass out.
Fair enough.
So we're going to move on because I am not sure. I don't know wrestling well enough before the Dusty Rhodes years. So I don't know. But we're going to swing on over right now because we have not heard Darren's last part of his story. So let's find out from Darren how his story ends.
Okay. So now, lest you believe that Bracco is just in this to make money by holding personal public appearances, nothing could be further from the truth, okay? He also makes money from selling his image on posters and t-shirts. Because true believers know that even just gazing upon Bracco's image has healing powers. I mean, all I did was read a Wikipedia article about him and drink an entire bottle of Chardonnay, and I feel amazing. Okay? So whether you believe in the power of the gaze or not, over 200,000 Croatians do each year, either at one of his touring events or by paying $72 for a day pass to go to his Zagreb gazing center. Looks can cure.
So he literally just stares at people and doesn't even talk to them.
For $72 a day per person.
I will say this, I do believe in the power of the gays because they are fabulous people and they put on fun parties and parades and they're some of my best friends. But I don't know if I believe in this guy. But Carlos, what do you think?
I think that Darren is trying to hide his alcoholism behind this story and trying to blame this Bracco character for to give it as an excuse to drink a whole bottle of Chardonnay, which may be one of several that we just can't see because they're off camera. Right. That's what I think.
There was a sale at Total Wine, okay? 20% off.
Name there, don't they?
20% off. If Bracco
Darren, we have your box ready for you.
If Bracco was there, it would have been for free. So what do you think there, Chris?
Well, I think that we are a week away from the opening, actually less than a week away now, from the first games of the college football season. And the biggest story in college football this past year was NIL deals, name, image, and likeness. And so he's describing this guy who just stares, this creepy ogler named Barack O something, who stares at people. And he basically described the first NIL deal. That this guy sold his name and image and likeness, and not to mention that he, I thought I heard in there a confession that he created the Wikipedia page. So I am definitely thinking that Darren is our bluffer this evening.
Oh, okay. So that leads us to an interesting part of the show. So I'm going to turn it over to the audience, and I'm just going to say, best line from Carlos, Tom. Wow, that's a strong statement. You may have to remind us what that was referring to. But at the end of this, I would love for you all to just chime in on the side to let us know who you think was bluffing and who you think was telling the truth. And we're going to just go right down in the order that we are, and that's going to be Chris. Chris already said Darren's bluffing. Do you have anything that you'd like to say in defense of your story or anything else for your parting words?
No, I stand by my narrative, and I'm going to stick with my choice of Darren.
Okay, so you pick Darren as the bluff. Carlos, what say you?
Chris stands by his narrative. Interesting word. Here's the thing. Darren's story is batshit crazy. So it's so crazy it has to be true. Do you understand? It's like it would be super bold for him to make up a character named Bracco that uses his psychic gaze to heal people and just say, because it's the obvious made-up story, which means it's probably the real one. And Chris's story that sounds legitimate is probably the bluff. So I think Chris is the bluff.
Oh, so the bit of reverse psychology makes Chris the bluff, but we still think Darren is batshit crazy. That's what I got out of that.
Yeah, no, both of them. I'm gonna dunk on both of them. Okay, you're gonna dunk on both of them. Wise, I think it's Chris.
If you had to pick, so that's one for Darren, one for Chris. And now I would like to hear, Chris, your thoughts on both of them. Oh, no, I already heard you, Darren. Your thoughts, please. Tell us.
Well, I know a little of the history of anesthesia, and I know that nitrous oxide, laughing gas, was used back in the Revolutionary period and was even abused. It was like one of the first abused legal drugs. But despite that, I know absolutely nothing about professional wrestling. And so I'm a little more leaning towards believing that Chris's story is BS.
Oh, okay. So we've got 2 for Chris now, none for Carlos. I would just like to say that right there. Adam the Tech, do you have any votes that you'd like to put in?
Well, I think referring to Carlos here, we've got Tom suggesting, Carlos, you've been in the system too long.
Nice. All right. So then,
for me personally, I have to agree with Carlos that Darren would be mighty, mighty bold to go forward with that story. But you know what, Gina? I'm the one person who knows.
Oh, that's right.
In fact, I'm the only person who knows.
In fact, well, let's go to that part of the show, because I will have to say that I do not know. This is one where I never know actually when I'm hosting, but this one I'm really like, I don't even have any clues from their tells or anything. So Adam, let's go to the part of the show where we figure out who actually is the bluffer. And Carlos, you're such a good advertisement for our show, because this show is supposed to be where truth is stranger than fiction. So I mean, we'll see how it goes. Adam, I'm going to turn it over to you right now.
All right, Gina, I'm going to have you step off our virtual stage by turning off your camera, and I'm going to line
I shall do that. That's so hard. What a challenge. Okay.
Okay, we've got the suspects lined up, and now I'm going to find out. Well, not yet. First, we have to know, do we think it was Darren with his story about the Croatian doctor, or was it Carlos with his story about anesthesia, or was it Chris with his story about the Flying Baron? I and I alone know. I'm going to reveal to you now. This whole time, the bluff was Chris!
Ow!
Yeah.
That's right,
I'm good
folks.
at this.
Gina, come on back on stage.
I wanted the Flying Baron to be real. I did.
I win a bottle of Chardonnay from Darren's stash.
Oh, I've got a big stash. I just went to Total Wine.
I know, buddy.
Well, we had...
And what that
Tom
means
thought it
is
was Darren.
Braco is real, people. You can go to Croatia and pay $72 for Braco to stare at you and make you feel better.
Wait, is he alive right now?
He's alive right now.
Is this history then, or is this current?
Well, he started 20 years ago, so that's history.
All right.
Yeah, it's modern history. So that was a fascinating run right there, because I love wrestling, and I was like wanting to know who the Flying Baron was, but you're just lying to us, Chris. You just fish
Fred Barron.
Yeah, Fred Barron. So that was very, very good. I'm in agreement with you. Darren did throw me. They all threw me this week. I was thinking Carlos was the liar, but y'all did a great job of fooling us. And that's why we do this show. So this was, if you have any ideas for what we should do for next week's topic, throw them in the chat over there. But I just want to say thanks so much to everybody out there in studio land for this History Bluff show. And thanks to our historians and Adam the Tech. Adam, you did a great job despite what Carlos said.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. You too, Gina.
Okay, thanks. That's because you like me, and I appreciate it. You all have a wonderful night. Thanks for watching this.
Have a good night, everybody. We will be here again next week, so tune in. Thank you.